R.
I'm Justin, and welcome to Rantpocalypse Talks FX's The Strain, and we are going to be discussing Season 3, Episode 4, Gone But Not Forgotten. And yeah, I absolutely hate that word, filler. I even hate when reviewers use the word. I hate when I use the word. But sometimes there's no better way to describe or explain what went down in a TV show episode other than it was filler. I honestly did not think that we were going to get this type of filler in Season 3 because we cut out 3 episodes. FX looked at the show. They probably looked at the ratings first. They were like, alright, you guys had 13 episodes in Season 1 and 2. You really didn't need that because there was lots of fluff and filler in a lot of those episodes. A lot of episodes where we just didn't do anything. People had conversations with other people, and then they had more conversations, and then maybe 1 or 2 things might have happened in the episode to kind of give you that, oh, well, something did happen in that episode. And this was kind of one of those. I'll get the review right out the way. The score, I give this episode 3 out of 5 bacons. A lot of the stuff I felt like didn't need to be in this episode, or if it needed to be shown, I felt like it was kind of focused on a little bit too much as opposed to the stuff that the episode really should have focused on, because I get it. We just had this badass, monumental moment that happened on the Strain in episode 3. The Master's head is cut off. Quinlan, he's exhausted from this battle that he just went through. A lot of crazy stuff transpired in episode 3, and that's unlike a lot of the stuff that we've seen in seasons past, where it's like build up, boom, crazy finale, where we got a lot of craziness happening up front in the Season 3 of The Strain. So I understood that we were going to have kind of, not a letdown episode, but a episode where we kind of regroup, rethink our strategy, we let these events breathe a little bit on the show. But I will say, I think the episode would have benefited greatly if it focused more on Outcast, because that was something we didn't see in episode 3. We didn't really get to see everything from his perspective, the fact that this is his master, the person that he has worked for let's just say 60-something years. I'm not exactly sure how many years he's worked for him, but for quite some time. I think it would have been cool to focus a little bit more on his whole revenge plan. We just got to see really one scene up front where, he's like, "We will strike back, you sons of bitches." Sorry, that's the best Outcast impersonation that I can give you. I thought that was a really cool scene. I really liked that. And then it just kind of went away from him, and then we get him back again, and it's him putting the plan together. He's putting the C4 bombs inside of the Strigoi, inside of Feraldo's workers, and he gives that awesome speech. I believe it was a Henry V. I think it's Henry V speech, and that was awesome. Like, it was great. But I honestly wish that we could have spent more time in the episode on him, how he was feeling about everything that happened with the Master. So I think that's one thing that I wish the episode would have focused a little bit more on. And the second thing I wish they would have focused a little bit more on is Quinlan. I think this would have been a perfect episode to just really focus on Outcast and Quinlan. So we see the disappointment and the rage and the fear from both angles. We see it from Outcast's angle, the fact that he doesn't know what else to do. He's, distraught. And then we see it from Quinlan's angle, where he is just enraged at the fact that everything he's been working for, he thought he had finally destroyed the Master. It was all for naught. The Master got away from him one more time. And I really liked the scenes that he had with the Ancients. I thought that was really cool. And I wish that they kind of would have focused on that a little bit more in this episode, as opposed to, of course, the pain point with me, and that is all of Gus and Angel stuff. Yeah, that's just not working for me at all. I told myself that I was going to be really brief in this review because I thought that the episode was really brief on the amount of real meat and substance that it had in this episode. But I will say that there were 2 things in this episode that I thought were just fantastic. One being, of course, Outcast's plan for revenge and retribution on Feraldo, on F, on Vasily, on Abraham, Satrakian, and Quinlan as well. So I really liked that. I thought it was a brilliantly executed plan. I thought it was vicious. He went for the heart of everything that has been going right for the people of New York. I mean, these sweep teams, They've been taking out Strigoi. They've been a pain in the Master's side for quite some time now, and going after them at their home base where they feel like they are safe. I thought it was some really heavy stuff, and especially in light of the stuff that just went down in Chelsea, I thought it was kind of crazy that FX decided to air this episode. I almost thought that they would pull back and say, hey, in light of the situation, I think we're going to hold off on this episode and air it, next week or something like that. But I thought it was just a crazy, crazy plan. I love the fact whenever the C4 explodes and you get the worms going everywhere. That's something that I really enjoy. It's creepy as hell. It's gross. I have this phobia of worms. I always feel like I'm going to eat my cereal and I'm going to look down and there's like these worms and everything in it. But it's just really creepy, and I certainly do not like worms. So they creep me out. So I think it was a nice creep factor that they had that explosion and they just blew out everywhere, all over people's faces and everything. Which leads me to my second thing that I really liked in this episode is all the Feraldo stuff. I will say that I wish that the episode would have focused more on Quinlan and Eichhorst, but I will say also the Justine Feraldo character is a very interesting character because she's just trying to rid New York City of the Strigoi, of the problem. She's not as emotionally invested in everything as far as with Ephraim, and Abe and Vasily and Quinlan as well, because they all have very personal ties to this whole vampire apocalypse and everything. I guess you could kind of say Feraldo does, because didn't she lose her husband at one point? But I think he was a douchebag, right? Wasn't he cheating on her? He was just kind of like an afterthought and everything. I think he was the one that got stung whenever he was coming back to the house after he cheated on her or something like that. Maybe I'm totally off my mind right now. But anyways, I really like what they did with her in this episode, where they start out with her. She can't believe the fact that she's been double crossed and she feels betrayed by her own people. The fact that they're enlisting these chain gangs in order to help take out the Strigoi. And she goes there, she visits them, and she's just, disgusted. But then, whenever the bomb goes off, she has that moment of clarity. She's like, hell no. I'll do whatever it takes in order to rid the city of these Strigoi. It was a crazy moment for that character, because she's supposedly pure on the show. She's always tried to do things right. And to see her make that transition to what I would consider the dark side, because she's, for all intents and purposes, manipulated and controlling the media and information flow. And I just watched the movie Snowden, so that's a really crazy concept and a really scary concept to me right now after you see that movie. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely go check it out. But I also get it because I watch a show called Billions, and in that show it's all about, which I won't spoil it, in that show it's all about, kind of how far will you go in order to A, get away with stuff, or B, nail the bad guy. Because sometimes we say, oh, the good guys, they don't stoop to the level of the bad guys in order to get them. But we also know that a lot of times if you want to get that bad guy, or the villain, if you will, you kind of gotta, you gotta wrestle around in the mud, I believe is what they call it. You gotta get your hands a little dirty. So yeah, definitely go check out Billions, because that show is just freaking phenomenal. Season 1 was so glorious. Feraldo's story really relates and hits home to basically every single one of us. We all know those stories of that individual that does some of the similar things that Feraldo does in this episode. So I really like the fact that that they showcase that, and I actually really like Feraldo's character. My final thing, though, that I will say, and one of the main reasons why I feel like, in my opinion, this episode was weaker than in past episodes, is because they didn't kill Feraldo off. I thought that was such a missed opportunity. It would have been a huge blow, and you would actually have seen some true, real consequences of Eichhorst's plan. Yes, it's, going to put them back. This is definitely a big setback for our group. But if we would have seen Feraldo die, it would have been a huge loss for the group. It would have been a tragic moment on the Strain TV show. We haven't really had one of those other than Nora's death, which to me, I get into this on our podcast. You can go check it out. It's the Ranting Munchers. But to me, Nora's death was like just totally out of the blue. I don't feel like it was a valid death on the show, so it kind of just still pisses me off. But to me, the death of Justine Feraldo in this episode would have made total sense. I think it would have been one of those epic moments on the show, and I think it would have benefited the show to have went there. So final thoughts on The Strain, Season 3, Episode 4, Gone But Not Forgotten. Not a bad episode, just an okay episode. Certainly nothing to blow your undies off. So I would love to know all your thoughts on The Strain, Season 3, Episode 4, Gone But Not Forgotten. Leave all those in the comment box down below. And go check out our podcast, The Ranting Munchers. It's on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or at our website, rantpocalypse.com. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll be back next week to cover The Strain, Season 3, Episode 5. Bye-bye.